Hello everybody, my name is Laura Siqueiros and the purpose of my talk is to introduce English language teachers to the ideas of Paolo Freire. If you're not a language teacher, don't worry, this is still going to be interesting for you. Let me tell you how I plan to do this today. What I want to do is to talk about Paolo Freire, first his background, then his philosophy of education, a few ideas about his pedagogy, and then the impact that this should have in English language teaching. So this is a photo of Paolo Freire just a few months probably before he passed away in 1997. We're talking about somebody who was born in 1921 under very difficult circumstances and who managed through the kindness of others, but also perseverance and a very strong spirit to overcome his situation and become a very influential person in the scene of education in Brazil. Illiteracy rates when he started working were really high in Brazil, and he started working on literacy campaigns very early in his life. He continued being influential, and at a point his ideas became too radical, so he was arrested and then exiled. And the arrest was very brief, and then during the exile he managed to write Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which is his most influential piece of work and where we can see a lot of the essence of his ideas. He returned to Brazil later on, 1989, and he continued working on education till his death in 1997. So we have a very active person who was always willing to share ideas with colleagues and who was also worried about literacy and the impact of education in the world, in society. So a way to talk about his ideas is, or his philosophy of education, is to see how he saw pedagogy. So pedagogy for Freire is always political and moral. So it's always involving the whole human being as a political being and as an ethical being. He was also very pragmatic, and here we can see some of the influences that also move the progressive movement of education in the States. So this was also happening in Latin America, and Freire was one of the advocates for this. Let's teach people to do things, not just to receive knowledge, not just to work on what he called the banking system of education, where you go and take out something. No, something that acknowledges that you have agency and you can take this thing and make it yours. Therefore, he was talking about meaningful input that people could process and therefore internalize in what he called conscientization, so that after this happens, then we can really transform not only ourselves, but the reality around us, the social system. He always gave context a very high importance. So context from the historical point where you are, from the connections between knowledge, power, and authority. So for him, it was very important that in pedagogy, people can help each other, not just the teacher, but also the learners help each other to understand the situations and then exert their agency to transform their present and their future. So he always was thinking about a better future for everybody, where people would understand how these dynamics of power could be used for the good. Now, of course, you can see a little bit of how these ideas can become radical, but thinking about language and Freire was thinking about language in the sense of language, native languages, and the power of the language of the oppressors. This could happen if this is the way that some people look at English nowadays, because it's the most influential language. So I think English language teachers would benefit from getting to know these ideas and accepting responsibility for the way we take the message to our classrooms. And this is what I have to say today. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you find this interesting enough to continue exploring Freire's ideas of education. Bye-bye.